Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, April 29th. April 29th. This week is flying by. I'm Stephanie Haney. I'm here with your top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. As we do each morning, I will start you off with the latest numbers from the Ohio Department of Health to give you an idea what COVID-19 is looking at right now here in the state of Ohio as we look towards the beginning to starting to reopen the state of Ohio, which is coming on Friday, according to Governor Mike DeWine. So here's where the numbers stand right now in the state of Ohio on Wednesday, April 29th. We have 16,769 reported cases of COVID-19 here within the state, and the number of deaths has reached 799. Now, I'd like to remind you again that this is based on the expanded CDC definition, so these are not just confirmed positive cases, but also probable cases of COVID-19. Yesterday was Ohio primary election day. After that was postponed because it was ordered that polls were not safe to be open on March 17th on St. Patrick's Day, which is when our primary election was scheduled. So that election was finalized yesterday. There was no in-person voting at all. Everyone had to either mail in a ballot or drop that off at your county board of elections. So we do have some results to report. All of the results are on wkyc.com/elections. I'll share just a couple of those results with you right now. Former Vice President Joe Biden did win the Democratic primary here in the state of Ohio. He is the presumptive nominee as the person who was his largest contender. Senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, has dropped out of the race, has suspended his race. So Biden did win here in Ohio. He took 71% of the vote and across the state. So he will presumptively be the person who runs against the presumptive Republican candidate, which is incumbent President Donald Trump, and any other people who should enter the race with any other affiliations in November. The school levies were a big issue that we were following at WKYC. The Willoughby Eastlake School District levy did pass. That was after failing in November. So the levy will now bring back several extracurricular programs, including sports and music, when students are able to return to in-person learning. Now, as Governor Mike DeWine has said, we're not exactly sure what that will look like in the fall. Those kinds of things have been canceled through the summer. When fall comes around, we may see a combination of in-person and distance learning, so we will certainly just have to wait and see what the future holds with regard to that. Several others, unfortunately, did not have the same luck. Cleveland Heights levy failed with 52% voting against the levy. Euclid Schools levy failed with with a vote of 52% against the levy. Perry Local Schools in Canton, my hometown, my alma mater, that levy did pass with 55% voting for the levy. Louisville Schools, though, right around the corner, that levy failed with 54% against that tax increase. So if you want to see the election results from your area, just go to wkyc.com/elections. You can drop down, you can select by topic, such as school levies, and you can see all the school levies right there. You can also check by race, like presidential race or state and national legislature races. And you can also just drop down and check by your county if you want to see how everything panned out in your county yesterday. Again, that's wkyc.com/elections to check that out. We have new data out now about the U.S. economy for the first quarter from the beginning of January through the end of March. And it decreased 4.8% as COVID-19 hit us here in the U.S. The Commerce Department says the gross domestic product, which is the total output of goods and services, posted a quarterly drop for the first time in 6 years. So not only did it drop for the first time in 6 years, it dropped by 4.8%. This is the biggest decrease since the economy dropped by 8.4% annual rate in the fourth quarter of 2008. That was during the recession. Experts do say that this drop from January to March is a preview of a much bigger drop in the GDP report to come for the period that we're in right now, which is the beginning of April through the end of June, as we've had many businesses shut down, layoffs, devastating unemployment numbers across the country. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that GDP will drop this quarter by a staggering amount, by 40%. That is huge. We're talking previously about the biggest decrease being 8.4% in 2008 in the recession in recent history. we're looking at potentially a drop of 40%, according to experts, from April to the end of June. That would be, obviously, the largest drop by a huge margin since we started keeping track of these things in 1947. That was 73 years ago. And of course, here in Ohio, we'll be keeping an eye on the unemployment numbers. Those come out every Thursday, so we'll have those updated numbers for you tomorrow. Some good news related to a potential vaccine, as lots of places around the world are working on a possible vaccine for COVID-19. Oxford University is also working on it, and they say they're showing some success, and they are trying it out and seeing some success in protecting monkeys in their trial. So it's testing of the team's experimental vaccine that began in healthy volunteers in Britain last week. Obviously, the big questions we're trying to answer here: is it safe? Does it work? Oxford scientists told the New York Times that if it does prove to be effective in testing, which is still underway, the first few million doses of their vaccine could be available as early as September. Now, keep in mind, based on other experts, we have been told that it might not be until 2021 when we see a vaccine for COVID-19, but these scientists are saying that they could potentially have doses ready by September if their testing does prove to be effective. Here in the U.S., scientists at Rocky Mountain Laboratory in Montana, which is part of the National Institutes of Health, they started testing the Oxford vaccine last month on 6 monkeys. That's according to the New York Times. After the monkeys were given the vaccine, they were then exposed to COVID-19, and more than 28 days later, all 6 of those monkeys, those test subjects, were healthy. That's according to Vincent Munster, the researcher who conducted the test, talking to the New York Times. But do keep in mind that even though the monkeys showed some level of immunity and were healthy 28 days later, there is no guarantee that that kind of a result would transfer to humans. So we are keeping an eye on that, as we're keeping an eye on many of the developing vaccines related to COVID-19. Yesterday, Governor Mike DeWine changed course on requiring facial coverings when people are able to go back into things, when people are able to go back into businesses on May 4th to work, and retail spaces open on May 12th. After mandating that both customers and employees would be required to wear the masks, he then said that it would just be the employees, that it would be not mandatory but strongly recommended for customers. He said, "It is best practices to wear the masks, but I've heard you and we're not going to mandate this. We're going to leave it up to the individual customer." So in talking about his change in direction, DeWine did say that he had spoken with a mother of a child with autism, and that woman explained to DeWine how the child felt about a facial covering. Do keep in mind, though, that just because the state would not be requiring this, individual stores can, and COSTCO is. COSTCO will require face masks for customers at all of its stores. This is according to a statement on the company's website. They say, "To protect our members and employees, effective May 4th, all COSTCO members and guests must wear a mask or face covering that covers the mouth and nose at all times while at COSTCO. However, that rule does not apply to children under the age of 2 or to people who are unable to wear a mask or face covering due to a medical condition." COSTCO is also limiting the number of people in its stores and will only allow 2 people to enter per membership card, but only 1 per card in Kentucky and specifically in El Paso, Texas. So keep that in mind for people that may have family and friends in those other areas. On Monday as well, JetBlue became the first U.S. airline to openly require coverings for all passengers from the point of checking in to deplaning off of the plane. So lots of people have lots of opinions. We do have your reaction related to the face mask issue. At first, when people had learned that it was initially going to be required, there was a lot of pushback. But then when people learned that it was not going to be required, there was also a lot of pushback, a lot of criticism of DeWine, saying that he was not standing with the people on the front lines, of course, talking to the people that work in those grocery stores and so forth. Lots of heated debate on that. If you want to check that out, that's on WKYC.com. Okay, those are your morning headlines here for Wednesday, April 29th. Next up, we have 3 News Connect. That's with Jay Crawford and our senior health correspondent, Monica Robbins. You can catch that at noon. That's on 3 News, also on WKYC.com, our WKYC app, on Facebook and YouTube. And I will be back here at 2 p.m. as soon as we get those updated numbers from the Ohio Department of Health. I'm Stephanie Haney. I will see you back here this afternoon.